welcome everybody. And it is really mind-boggling that it's now 1 year on, and this digital divide specialist group has been around. And what have we done? So I hope that today, it helps everybody who's been part of this journey from the beginning to others who are just joining us now to find out more about what we've been doing and what we've been trying to do in the future also. So we do have a full agenda. As you can see, this is a webinar with a difference, right? We have many of the steering committee members speaking for themselves today, because then we get to know them, and not only just about who they are and what their role is, but also what they've been doing. And today is also special because it's also the celebration of our first year anniversary, and because of that, at the end, please do stay behind. We will be doing our AGM, where you will find out a little bit more about the new committee that's coming in, and also anybody who's interested to join us, please also let us know. Right, so for today, I know there are some questions that people will be wanting to know. What is the purpose and vision mission? What have we done today? What are the plans for 2023? And how are we joining the dots with Digital Poverty Alliance and any other communities out there? And also, how can anyone get involved? So the Digital Divide Specialist Group was created, and you can see at the bottom in green, we say that we seek to champion and facilitate digital inclusion for all by championing improvements in access to skills, technology, and infrastructure, right? So this is our area and our domain of expertise. And we've been joining the dots, not just in isolation, but at all levels, all the way from local to regional to national and also international. And the simple way to relate to this is that BCS purpose is to make IT good for society, and our SG is about leaving no one digitally behind. And you can see for the Digital Poverty Alliance, it's about ending digital poverty by 2030. So I hope everybody can see that there's a connection, at all these levels. And what has the SG done to date? This is just a very quick snapshot, showing you that there are at least 4 dimensions to this. It started with joining the dots, which is a number of IT leaders in the early days, 60 leaders in 9 communities, very quickly coming to the same conclusion that we have a problem here, and how do we find a way to solve this problem? And then we came across the Digital Poverty Alliance, and then joining up the BCS, and then eventually joining up by the creation of this specialist group. I'm not going to go through the details. This deck will be available to you, but I want to show that there's a lot of things that's happened. And of course, most recently in February, we were delighted to be participating at the State of Open Conference, the first UK Open Community Conference, where the BCS, the DPA, the Joining the Dots, the specialist group, we were all there to help publicize who we are and what we're about. And if you want to get a flavor of what we've done last year, this is the series of events that we've done, right? And then you can see there's a lot of them. So I'm not going to go through them, but I want you to know we've done quite a lot of events, quite a broad spectrum of things, from autism to dementia to homelessness, to IT leaders within BCS, to Scotland's Tech for Good, to London's Digital Inclusion Conference. So quite a broad spectrum, right? And this year, we also have lots of plans, and this is to give you a flavor of what's coming up. We've just done one in January, which is our most well-attended event to date, a cost of living crisis. This event is happening right now, which is about our SG 1 year on and AGM. And you can see next month we have another event. So plenty of things for people to look forward to. Now, joining the dots is important for us to understand that to solve digital poverty or inclusion, exclusion, is not about the thing that we think that is the most obvious thing, which is we tend to think about it as skills, we tend to think about it as devices, but it's more than that. So I would like everybody to understand that to solve this problem, we really need to take a holistic approach. It's about digital participation, and that means joining a number of dots up, from device to data to tech support to motivation to skills to opportunities to inclusive design. So please remember that this is a very complex and multidimensional problem to solve, but we're beginning to get our heads around this and also a way of solving this problem. Right, and also to show you that it's not just about the BCS or this SG, it's about many organizations coming together to try and help us to not just help us, we're all doing this together, right? This is about joining up the thinking and the approach to solve this really complex problem, right? And because of that too, all the the 13 tech communities in the UK are now part of the Digital Poverty Alliance. So we have a strong voice and a strong steer, and the BCS plays a leading role because it's the largest IT organization in this joining the dots representation, right? And last year too, we had a strategy day with the DPA and the BCS to try and formulate what we want to do for this year and also to 2030, because our objective is to end digital poverty by 2030. So we need to start identifying things that's going to help us solve that problem. Now, this is where I'm delighted to introduce our guest today. First one is Matthew Bellringer, who is the chair of the BCS Neurodiverse IT Specialist Group. So Matthew, welcome, and over to you.
Great, thank you very much, Freddie. I'm really happy to be here, and I think it's so great the work that you're doing. So I'm particularly grateful to be part of this event today. So briefly, a little bit about me. Yeah, I believe that neurodivergent people can make a unique contribution to work and to wider society if we're given the support and the development opportunities we need. And technology has a really big role to play in that. And we have a really big role to play in technology. And it's really, really important that we can actually participate as digital citizens and work. So my work personally is particularly focused on the exceptional abilities and the organizational benefits that neurodiversity can offer. But that only happens when we can actually access the things that we need and get the support that we need. So this is a huge part of the picture. So I work as a consultant. I have a one-to-one practice as well, do group facilitation, speaking and writing around this topic, which is all about how we can make neurodiversity good for everyone. I also run my own independent community called Curious Being, which is a space for unconventional people who want to make the world a better place. And most importantly to today, I am chair of Neurodiverse IT, which is the BCS specialist group for neurodivergent IT professionals. And there's more about that on the following slide. So could we have the next slide, please? Super, thank you. So yeah, so we are a group of neurodivergent people largely, and the committee is mostly neurodivergent, identifies as neurodivergent. And what we were set up to do about a year ago, interestingly, so we've got this nice kind of parallel journey with the Digital Divide group. We're a little bit over a year old ourselves. So we were set up to, and continue to do, to help the industry access the unique talents that neurodivergent IT people can offer, to support us as neurodivergent IT professionals in our work, and to raise the awareness of the contribution that neurodiversity makes to IT as a profession and to wider society. Because digital technology can be a huge help to us as neurodivergent people and to all disabled people, but it can also be a really, really big barrier. And I think this is one of the reasons for me why the Digital Divide group and its work is just so important. Through inaccessible support services that are functionally impossible to use for neurodivergent people, to the effects of economic marginalization that prevent neurodivergent people from having access to the necessary technology. There's so many issues here that overlap. Less than a quarter of autistic adults are in work, and that has the obvious effect on the money and resources that neurodivergent people have available, and on issues like homelessness and mental health as well. And this isn't just a personal tragedy, it's a missed opportunity for the whole of society. You know, there's so much that we're missing out on. And this year, Neurodiverse IT is working with BCS as an organization on a campaign to start looking at the IT skills shortage, and to address the IT skills shortage by making the profession more inclusive and bringing more neurodivergent people into the IT profession. And that has another effect too. I was really pleased to see in the, in the all of those topics that you shared at the beginning, Freddie, around design and making sure that design is accessible. And one of the key ways that we see to deliver that and to ensure that is to make sure that people who have lived experience of all of the things that we're talking about are involved in the design process. So making sure that there are disabled people present in the IT profession naturally tends to make us deliver better products and services that are more accessible. And so hopefully we can start creating a virtuous cycle around this. We have our own range of upcoming talks and events, and I'd be very happy to see all of you there. Next week, we're going to be talking to the Business Change Specialist Group around the neurodiversity from that perspective, and you can find more on the URL there. If you want a slightly easier URL, also you can find the neurodiverse IT link on my own links page, which is matthewbellringer.com/links. So if that's a bit easier for you, then please go there. And I also want to say that I'm so happy to be working closely with Digital Divide and with all of the other diversity and accessibility specialist groups. I think it's a really positive thing that we're all able to work together and work on different aspects of what really is a common set of problems and issues. So yeah, I think it's that's basically it from me. I just want to say thank you so much for inviting me and for giving me a chance to speak about this group, and thank you so much for everything that you're doing as well.
Thank you, Matthew. It's great to have you coming here to speak in support. Because behind most of the events we've been doing it jointly, but it's great that you are helping also our audience to get to know a bit about your SG, and we'll be delighted to do the same thing to participate in your events too. Yeah, so thank you. All right, next we also have the pleasure of the introduction to the BCS Women Specialist Group, and speaking on behalf of this group is Margaret Ross. So Margaret, can I get you to say a few words about BCS Women SG?
Thank you. Next, please. Very much. This particular specialist group, we're particularly encouraging women in the industry, and potentially ones that would like to come in, those that are taking career breaks, etc. But we are not exclusive just to women. So we do actually have some men within the BCS Women's Group. But we also actually like to share experiences, and we like to have fun. Next, please. What we're actually talking about is very much a global system. Most of our events are actually online, but we're particularly keen on encouraging groups from special areas, particularly youngsters. One thing is for students at university, we have an Ada Lovelace curriculum, and that actually encourages them to actually compete and meet with other female students from other universities. During the virus, it was online. Now we're back to physical again. But we do a lot of work linked in with branches and specialist groups. I'll just introduce you to one of our members here, again, showing her wide range of interest. Next, please. And introduce you to a second one of our members. Now, again, we're actually talking about one of our members that's actually based in America. So although we're a British Computer Society or BCS, our membership is actually very much global. One of the things we're particularly keen on is encouraging the CVs, helping and support, as I've said, during the career breaks, and actually trying to encourage the IT teachers as well, which then comes back to helping maybe students with special requirements and special needs, which comes back to our previous speaker. And so please do join us. Thank you. Next.
Thank you, Margaret. And for those of you who do not know Margaret, Margaret is one of the, I would call her one of the BCS legends. So please go and find out more about what she's done. She's had a very amazing contribution to industry and BCS for many, many years. Yeah, so delighted that she's here speaking on behalf of BCS Women, but I'm more delighted that she's also a member of our Digital Divide Specialist Group, which you will be speaking about her role shortly. So I'm going to start kicking this off here in the next section around who are the committee members and what we all do. So as chair, let me kick this off. We use OKRs as a way to make sure that we sort of focus on the things that matters. So in the case of me as the chair, I have 3 key result areas. First one is to establish OKRs for each committee member. And this is an ongoing thing. We try to do this every month for each quarter coming up, so that by the time of each quarter, we then prepare for the next one. And hopefully throughout the year, we feel like we're doing the things that matters rather than just doing things. Right. And the second key result, which is something that I personally is championing with a small group I will be sharing in a moment, is to get this National Tech Support Help Desk pilot going. I will talk about this in a minute. And then the third key result is about planning a major event. Before I launched this digital device specialist group, I was on a webinar by the BCS with Helen Milner from Good Things Foundation and Danielle George, president of IET, and John Higgins, who was the president of BCS. And that was the event 2 years ago. We would like now to have a follow-up event on that, but this time as a joint event with BCS and the DPA. So this is a major event that we're planning. Hopefully that will happen in May, but if not, it will happen sometime this year. And to date, as you can see, we are celebrating our first year anniversary. Delighted that this is now a real thing. We have also got a very strong connection with the DPA and the BCS, and we continue to join the dots across other IT communities and partners. So this is not just about us, it's not just about BCS, it's about all of us working together. Right, so the first thing that I champion is this National Tech Support Pilot. This is about finding an equivalent for the outside world, whereby in the corporate place, you always have a help desk to help you when you have a problem. But what about the outside world when somebody has a problem? Where is that equivalent? So delighted that we have some big tech companies getting involved here, Unisys, ServiceNow, the DPA, BCS, plus all the joining the dots communities, because there are many things that we can do here. This is an area of expertise that we have, and therefore this is our contribution towards solving a part of the digital poverty issue. A second thing that I champion is creating this national catalog of digital personas. This is something that we all do in our day job to provide digital solutions for our customers, for our companies, but we make many assumptions, such as able-bodied people with some skills. But yet again, if you look at the world outside work, there are many people who do not fit into those definitions. There could be disabled people, there could be people with no skills, little skills, there could be people with no confidence, no motivation. So how do we solve that problem? But unless we are able to define the right personas, we are therefore ignoring that population. And the way we're going to do this is not by saying that this SG is going to be responsible for creating all these personas. No, the idea here is to get everybody. So please help us to get the message out. Get everybody to contribute towards this national catalog of digital personas, so that in the future, when you are designing and implementing a digital solution, you will now have a place to check and verify whether that you are hitting the mark in terms of addressing the population or the segment of the population that you're targeting. So I hope that you can see that these are some of the things that we in the SG as committee members, we are personally championing to make sure that this become a reality. I'm going to hand this over to Dave, Vice Chair of this SG. Dave, over to you.
Thanks, Freddie. And before I talk about what I do, what I have been doing so far, and what I intend to do, there is one thing that I think both Freddie and Matthew have touched on, which is that working together, joining the dots. So, in fact, Matthew mentioned that the neurodiversity SG is of a similar age to the Digital Divide SG. The Pride SG, on which I'm inclusion officer, is also of a similar age. So we're now getting to the point where these 3 new SGs can work together, because we now have these 3 new SGs. And I love the fact that we're all well represented here from these specialist groups that aren't just about where the semicolon goes in Python and how all the technical stuff works. These are about social stuff as well as the technical stuff that is our day-to-day. Freddie, by the way, there's a grey box right in the middle of the screen there. So there we are. So thanks, Freddie. So what I've been doing over the past year and what I would like to continue to do as vice chair are these 3 things you can see here. So externally, this is really about the the way in which BCS and our SG engages with external things. So one big area where we've made significant changes to the way we work is engaging at Parliament, so that data poverty and picked for APPGs, and APPG there is an all-party parliamentary group. So these are ways that we talk to MPs and peers in Parliament about the areas of concern that they already have, about the areas where they currently work. So data poverty is one aspect of digital poverty. It's not the whole thing, but data poverty is an area where Parliament is well engaged already in collaboration with Digital Poverty Alliance, with ISPs, with the DPA, and with us now. PIC4 is the Parliamentary ICT Forum, again, which is an APPG that talks about IT stuff in general, and we're well engaged with those. We look forward to more engagement this year, but we have already been engaged over the past year with that. So this is getting BCS voice out there, getting BCS recognised as a voice to be heard in these areas, getting our SG recognised as a contributor to that BCS voice. Additionally, and again, as Matthew and Freddie have both touched on, internally, this key result too, this sounds like we're just doing calendar stuff. That's not really what that means. It is related to that. It's about making sure that we work well with other SGs, making sure that internally the areas where we overlap with other SGs go well. So we are talking to Pride, we are talking to Neurodiversity, we are talking to others, and those key things are how we're going to make sure that we can do this well, that we work well with other specialist groups. And so Tristy, who is the inclusion officer here and that I work with in the inclusion officer forum, has been leading that inclusion officer forum, so the inclusion officers from all SGs can get together and to begin to contribute the notion of what inclusion officers do to BCS so that others can benefit from that. So we are now social SGs is probably not the right phrase, but I'm going to use that for now, so that we can contribute to that discussion rather than simply benefiting from it. So, the third one that we have here, apologies for going a little bit over here. The third one that we have here is that I'm trying to make sure that we view charities as a beneficiary, a potential beneficiary of our issues with digital poverty. It's not just about individual people who struggle with digital poverty and struggle to make sense of the online world and to use the online world effectively. Individual charities can also be beneficiaries. So I think there's massive potential for overlap here with local branches who can actually do the things that charities need to be done. But ultimately, what this is saying local charities, especially small charities, cannot always do the things they need to do digitally, using email, using calendars, using online services, using cloud services, using these things well, making sure they can manage their stuff effectively. And then once that's all being managed effectively, get on with doing the actual charity business that they need to do. So that's it for me on those, I think. Apart from the fact that we have SG representatives at council, of course, those elections are underway at the moment. So hopefully I'll be able to. Actually, no, I don't want to kind of canvass here. But here's the detail on the charity things. That this is letting charities do their stuff, and we can help out hopefully by making sure that the digital divide doesn't prevent them from doing that stuff effectively and well.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Dave. Mark, can I get you to go next?
Yeah, sure. Hi, Mark in the EFC West. I have been involved clearly since the beginning of this. I'm a student member of the BCS, so I'm not a full member. However, this is a particular thing that's quite close to my heart, which is why I joined the my specialist group as the secretary. Originally, I joined as the events coordinator. However, because I'm a glutton for punishment, I could kind of put in a little bit more extra effort, and it made sense to move into the secretary role, where my main kind of thrust is to support both Dave and Freddie in general management and kind of the background goings on in terms of the SG. Go through the key my OKRs for the last year, organising action areas. So what we've done, we've looked at aligning our action areas and our and how we go forward with that with the DPA. It makes sense. They're logical, and it aids us to kind of stovepipe or silo our work. That's ongoing. Our major events, as Freddie's already demonstrated and shown, we've had quite a few events that we've put on. We had our first face-to-face event in London at the BCS in London, which was really, really good. Got some good progress, good output from that. And our big event is going to be our joint DPA BCS event, which again, planning is ongoing with that. The third OKR in terms of our members. Now, this is not just the committee itself. This is for our wider membership in terms of the SG itself. And this is to help, as Freddie's mentioned, and Dave as well. You know, this is a very grassroots thing. Digital poverty is very much a local issue. We're trying to bring it to the, into the national consciousness, but it's a lot of the effort is going on locally. So what we are trying to organise and direct member output through the SG, and in terms of becoming a pivot or a signpost for local activity. We'll talk about that later. Achievements this year, I've managed to set up the website with lots of signposting and resources on our website. This is for lots of different partner organisations, including DPA, local and national organisations, which again, this is in aid of us becoming a pivot and a focal point for for digital poverty alongside the DPA nationally, so we can become that kind of one source of knowledge, one version of the truth, if you will. So people can come here, find information, know where to go, and we can hand off to those people that are doing the work, if you will. Again, I've been organising monthly webinar events, which I feel have been very successful. As Freddie touched on before, our event last month was our most highly attended, and long may that continue. And yeah, so, and my personal input in terms of the digital divide, so outside of the SG, I've helped to generate and deliver local ICT classes for the digitally left behind within Wolverhampton. So this is a personal kind of a project of mine, which I really wanted to get behind. It's quite a small thing at the moment, however, it's growing quite quickly, and I've got aspirations, ambitions to grow that further within Wolverhampton, and then we've got quite a bit of buy-in actually from the council across different other charities within the city. This is only for local wards at the moment, because it's essentially I'm a one-man band delivering this, but I'm trying to grow that with help from the university and other elements in and around here. So hopefully that's going to grow as we go forward. Yeah, that's me.
Thank you, Mark. And Charlie, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Freddie. Yeah, so my name's next slide, maybe. Yeah. So I'm the membership secretary. I also chair the North Staffordshire branch and also sit on BCS Council. So I mean, the focus I have at the moment as membership secretary is to get ducks in a row for oncoming new members, particularly, and working with the rest of the committee to improve the current website. So collateral for people to make use of, links, etc. And just working through some of the BCS systems which aren't always straightforward. So that's the summary of the objectives, really. In terms of achievements, we're working locally with quite a few organisations for a separate project in Staffordshire called Discover Digital, discoverdigital.org.uk. So it's a collaboration between many organisations, NGOs, universities, and now the BCS. And there's hope now that the project can be extended based on the Shared Prosperity Fund, which is coming through now locally in the Staffordshire area. Next slide, please. Yeah, so and so this leads on to what I'm currently focused on, very much local focused at the moment, but about joining together. We talked earlier about joining the dots. Well, I'm kind of focused on the best way to join together organizations locally within Staffordshire to support different projects. There's quite, and that also includes, importantly for me, with links through to the Chamber of Commerce and small, medium-sized enterprises, SMEs. There's quite a lot goes on locally, and it does tend to be quite individual. And so what we're looking to try and do locally in Staffordshire is build on Discover Digital and also bringing in place what other people are actually doing and sort of amplify that as good practice and join things together so that we have a local improvement, really. The other thing that's probably not quite so clear on there is there is an opportunity, I think, for BCS members to support in some kind of technical advisory role. I think Mark spoke earlier about that. He's doing something personally. So I think there's something that we can maybe formalize a bit more. So I'm investigating that within the branch. Yeah, that's it for me, I think. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charlie. Fiona, welcome, Fiona.
Thank you, Freddie. So like colleagues before me, having both a national focus through the Digital Divide SG and also applying that to a local setting has been something that I've been undertaking for the past year as well. So it's been a real privilege to serve as treasurer on this SG, supporting the good use of our funds and maintaining our financial planning and budget. My day job is within a health tech company, and I'm a BCS fellow. But really, my night job is a single-minded wish to address the digital divide in Bath, which is the city in which I live. I believe that Bath is one of those places where if we can't deal with it there, it's going to be a real struggle elsewhere. It is one of those areas where there is a large amount of confusion about where digital poverty exists, and it's often covered up by large amounts of affluence that surround the city, where there is a heavy tech industry that exists. So through working with the council future ambition boards, Bath has recently got the unfavourable mantra of being the graveyard of ambition. So really to try and address some of that, the council has brought together a number of ambition boards, including the Connectivity and Opportunity for All board. And my role within that as representative from the Digital Divide SG has been to really build recognition that this exists within our city and that is something that we need to address. And that has probably been my most hardest job, is getting some people who are actually not very digital positive in the first place to recognize that their privilege actually often covers up a lot of what other people wouldn't be able to have access to. So because they can call on friends and family, and because they can call on expensive devices and are very literate and can understand and navigate a lot of things, that therefore digital poverty is not a key agenda item. And I have been really shining a light on the fact that actually it is, and it needs to be addressed within the city, and that it's very important that we do. So really taking that joining the dots aspect and really applying it across the charities and organisations that are trying to address a lot of the agendas that are facing citizens within the Bath area. And that's included lobbying a local community interest company into having the digital divide agenda as their primary focus for the next year, including leading on developing champions across the city to address this as an issue. And I kind of referenced one there in terms of something that's ongoing at the moment, which is looking at internet service provider options for low-income families across the city. A lot of the city is currently being dug up by a number of different competing companies for very significant investment, and actually thinking about what that means for low-income families and other people who may not be able to access that kind of high-end aspect so readily. But I also wanted to mention a couple of successes with that. So within the city, there's some really admirable charities working with refugees. They had provided laptops for refugee families, but hadn't realised all of those laptops were in English, and actually them being native speakers in their own language, the actual process of downloading a language package that met their needs was very complicated, and it was a different script, different language, things looked very different, and so they became glorified coasters, and people used them as tea trays, until a small group of people put together a video with a volunteer speaker who just talked through step by step using video about how to do it, and that revolutionized the access to that hardware. Such a simple thing, completely free, and completely changed the world of those people. Other things have included setting up a laptop library in a local school to help them to upskill their children from primary school level, preparing for secondary school, moving from tablet devices to laptop devices being a real skills gap that can happen at that age. Also thinking about, there were 2 skills kind of initiatives that were put on. One had hardware and no teachers, and one had teachers and no hardware. So we got them together and they ran a joint effort instead. So I just wanted to highlight that no contribution is too small. Even the smallest things about networking can make a big difference in a local area, and that's really what I wanted to highlight. So although some of the things that I've mentioned and the focus I have within Bath sounds like a big agenda, actually a lot of the things that we're doing are relatively small, just connecting people and finding ways to really make a difference by introducing initiatives and connecting different skill sets to make a difference. And yeah, hopefully that'll bear fruit as we lead into this year of championing that through this Bath Bridge community interest company. Thank you.
Thank you, Fiona. Margaret, over to you.
Okay, thank you. Next, please. One of the things that I'm actually involved with as liaison, next screen, please, is actually helping for things like the AGM. Can we have next screen? Thank you. And also encouraging links with other MGs, membership groups. So in other words, we've talked about neurodiversity. If they organize something that we think this is appropriate to us, to try and see if we can actually say, well, could we view this as a joint event? They lead it, but we can actually then put it up on our website and talk to and tell our members about it. Similarly, events that we might have that might be of interest to possibly BCS Women or one of the other specialist groups, to particularly say, well, how about actually saying this is jointly with us? We're leading it on Digital Divide, but how about putting it on your website and circulating it to your members? So in other words, we're actually spreading basically the good word of all the activities that's going on, not only with us, but with other SGs and other branches. So far over this year, as Freddie has already said, we've dealt with lots of other topics we've been involved with setting up, which was the elderly, the young, those with dementia, autism, the homeless, asylum seekers, as well as those with financial problems. Next, please. The particular roles that I've got is particularly, as say, raising this awareness. And my particular interest is linking in with the charities, particularly down in my area on the South Coast, and see if we can actually sort of create a greater link between the BCS and the charities. Next, please. One of the areas that I'm chair of the Hampshire branch, and Hampshire has in fact some very poor areas. In fact, Southampton, which I'm particularly concerned with, is actually known as the city of sanctuary because it has a very, very high number, very welcoming to asylum seekers and refugees. Many of them are still, unfortunately, in hotel because there is a real problem sort of to actually absorb them and find accommodation, etc. The charities that are listed here are ones that I've been in touch with within this last year. There's a particular issues with all of these charities needing to use computing, and they all use it to a lesser or greater extent. Those dealing with the refugees and asylum seekers are using a tremendous amount of technology, because part of what they do is to help those with all the paperwork that's necessary. Not only do you have to find homes for them to live in, food, etc., but there's also a lot of legal paperwork, government paperwork that they have to deal with, and it's not in their first language, and it's not in, to be honest, easily understood language to even English speakers as first language. Some of these charities, particularly that I've been involved with, is new one that's come up, that's picked up 1 or 2 places in the country, is not only food banks for the humans, but pet banks, to encourage those that have got pets to actually keep them rather than sort of pass them in to refuge centres. And in fact, last week there was a rather inspiring situation where the lady came in with 3 dogs. She was planning to actually have to hand them over to a centre because she couldn't afford to feed them. She was immediately given food, and she would be given the food regularly. So she was in tears. The volunteers that were actually dealing with her were also in tears. So it was a very positive, but they were positive tears. Also within this one, not only do you want to keep the animals with anybody living alone for mental health, loneliness, both of these issues that we deal with within Digital Divide, but also generating heat. And one of the issues is for those that are homeless, they're also now producing pouches of food that are being produced to be dished out on a daily basis for those that are living on the street with dogs, because not only it's the heat, the mental health, the loneliness, but also the physical safety of those people. So this is actually working originally to start with just Southampton, and hope this spreads out wider. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. James, I see that you joined us too, so over to you.
Thank you. Sorry, I was muted. Not visible. That's better. Yes, so I'm the Higher Re-Education Liaison Officer. We're particularly looking at higher education to begin with, and the aim is to get information about VSG to accredited to all universities, accredited and not accredited, who are members of the Committee of Professors of Computer Science, and to the student chapters. We have that pretty much drafted now, and a later point we can look at FE colleges and schools. I'm just saying we'll do them in order. We ought to do them all, of course, largely because for 2 reasons. One is that the digital divide ought to be part of the curriculum. People ought to realise that just because you produce something that satisfies, say, 80% of the population, it doesn't satisfy 100% automatically. We see that both in system design and also detailed implementation, because people may well have low bandwidth, and there are government forms in particular which are very high bandwidth consumers. And the second is that students in particular, we've seen some of this with the stuff Fiona described earlier, can make very good ambassadors, and actually as their commitment to society, be some of the foot soldiers who are actually doing the day-to-day work, and some of that's extremely valuable, particularly if you've got students with foreign language capabilities or foreign culture capabilities. But we as a small committee can't mobilize them directly, hence the importance of persuading schools and universities and then schools to do that mobilization for us. And yes, I was at the State Open Conference as well, but Freddie did a much better job than I did there. Thanks. Yeah, so what I'm trying to do, I've got some stories for young people. I'd really like to see if Fiona could possibly document hers and produce more stories to show how people can do things, because students quite like a worked example, as it were. It's going to be a worked example of homework. But our resources are actually quite a lot of students. Yes, there are over 100,000 students. So if 1% of them did did 2 hours work a week, we'd have an enormous workforce. Thanks.
Thank you, James. Right, Alistair Irons is not here. He's our internal communications officer. I shall sort of talk on his behalf. So he's got 3 key results area. One is that he continued to champion our SG with the trustee board, with the academy board. He's chair of the academy board. So
Yep.
He's in a very good place to make sure that every part of the BCS, internal BCS, is aware of what we're trying to do. 2 is that he's going to also help us to socialize and disseminate the one-pager to as many universities and their students, and also working with Holly Porter regarding the academy offer. And 3 is that BCS has a strong relationship with IPIP, and we also have our internal newsletter called IT Now, and this is something that we have to use all those channels to make sure that the message gets out there. Right, so you can see the achievements that he has so far to put this agenda on the academy board, and also to socialize it to the trustee board. The one thing that he champions in his role is to use his influence to make sure that this message is well heard and well known by everybody. And this is not a one-time thing, which is why it is so important that we have to keep that information flowing. We got to keep this consciousness going. So we thank him for doing this work on our behalf behind the scene, and he's not here today, but hopefully his message is loud and clear to everybody. Another person that is part of the committee is Tristy Tanaka, Inclusion Officer. I will be seeing her in a few minutes' time. She's currently on the train, and she and I tonight we're attending the Women in IT Awards. A very important event for the IT sector, celebrating the successes of women. And the BCS Woman has been nominated for one of the awards, and I'm one of the judges there. So, the BCS is playing a big role here. But in her role as inclusion officer, she's also created a one-page document to help people understand what it means to do so. And part of it is to document the inclusive design principles. So please do have a look at what has been done here. And you can see the other key result is to make sure that this is not just within the SG, but it's also to share with the other inclusion officers and to share with the wider BCS. And to make that a reality, one of the things that she's going to do is to sort of organize a BCS inclusion officers event. Right, so this is about getting all of those people playing that role across BCS to come together and do something jointly. So you can see there's a common theme here, which is about joining the dots. And you can see some of the achievements that she's done so far. And then the main thing that she's championing, as I already shared earlier on, is about these inclusive design principles. And it's about how to make sure that through the role of the inclusion officers across the BCS, this message get out initially within BCS, but then externally outside to anybody else that needs to know about this. So we got to sort of eat our own dog food here. We got to lead by example here. And this is what this group is trying to do. And last but not least, for Sean, although he's not here physically, but I have a recording that I'll be sharing now. So please bear with me as I do that. Sorry, let me try again, make sure I can do that. It doesn't come up. Yes, okay. Okay.
Hello, my name is Sean Sadler, and I'm the early career advocate at on the Digital Divide Specialist Group. And the role for me as an early career advocate is provide a method of overcoming barriers, either to starting out a career in IT or actually learning more about IT and digital capabilities. As part of this, we've had some OKRs to work to. Certainly, I've had some. And the first one really is about how do we socialize what's available so that early career professionals can obtain those necessary or get access to the necessary resources, which are going to really help them to develop their careers. And this obviously is making sure that we work with the Early Careers Advisory Group that was set up recently. The second one was, how do we expand our capabilities and how do we leverage the relationships that we have with other organisations, such as the WCIT, also the DPA. So the WCIT, if you're not aware, is a worshipful company of information technologists. It's a livery company, the 100th livery company in the City of London, where you have lots of IT professionals, about 800 or so strong, who are looking to really give something back to society. So there is a homelessness panel there, which supports homeless charities, and that is the initiative that I've been working on with them, is how can we look for volunteers and support homeless charities and provide technical assistance. And then finally, the third OKR is around identifying those potential homeless charities that will really be able to take advantage of the offerings that we're able to provide, technical assistance, technical advice, and training. So far to date, produced a one-page document to make things as concise as possible. That's easily socialized, and that's within the BCS community and also within the WCIT. But obviously, the fact that it's on the BCS website means that it can be shared further afield as well. So we had a webinar back in December, a joint webinar with the BCS and WCIT about how we can use technology to address homelessness. And it was really well attended. There's some great questions that came out of it, and it really helped socialize a little bit more about what's going on in WCIT and also within the BCS, and how we can obviously work together towards the same aims. And then finally, what also came out of that was, how can we really move that dial? And this really comes down to having a joint volunteering day where we can look to provide that technical assistance, that support, that advice, and any sort of and point them in the right direction to where they can get additional information, training, free training for digital skills. Okay, so one thing that we've done, one thing that we all, I guess, signed up for, is one thing that we would champion within our roles on the committee. Mine is around digital skills training for the homelessness charities, and this really consists of, as you heard, sort of really linking with WCIT and the DPA to socialise. So that includes the likes of Jason Scott Taggart, who's the chair of the homelessness panel, obviously Freddie, who's the chair of this digital divide group. And what we're looking at doing is signposting the digital skills training to those charities. And the reason for that is that it's been proven, if homeless people can pick up the necessary digital skills, then it enables them greater capability to find a job. And a lot of homelessness charities do just that. They provide these training facilities, they provide devices, and we then have many more IT literate people who are then able to apply for jobs and seek additional help. Because as we all know, there's so much that now has gone online, especially with the result of COVID. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you very much.
So Sean is not here technically, but thank you, Sean. Delighted that he is able to do this for us. Let me resume the deck. Okay, so this is now the sort of the ending bit of this webinar. And one of the questions we also want to answer is, how can you help? Right, as I mentioned before, this is not about anybody having to solve this problem on their own. It's about joining the dots. So you can see there's a number of ways. You can just join the BCS and then specifically join the SG, or you can also join the Digital Poverty Alliance. So those will be two good places to start with. And please do more than just being, just joining, being a supporter, right? Become an ambassador, right? Help to socialize what we've just shared with you to others so that they know and they start from a position of understanding and knowledge rather than of ignorance and potentially duplicating effort. And then this year, the Digital Poverty Alliance will be launching the National Delivery Plan, and this is where, we would like everybody to sort of indicate what they're doing so that we can build out this national picture of who is doing what, so that we know how we can solve this problem. And of course, some of you who are already doing it, as you can see, each and every member of this SG, they are not just being a committee member, they're not just being an SG member, but they're all doing something, right? Big or small, it doesn't matter, right? So they are doing all the things that you see on the right-hand side, which is to drive a specific thing. But you can also start by, not having to sort of do everything. Come and support some of the things that you've seen here, or identify things that you think you'll be interested to help with. So my parting message to all of you is get involved, right? The fact that you're here today means that you're interested in this. So come and speak to one of us, join the Digital Poverty Alliance, come and check out our website, because there's a lot of information there. I'm going to pause here. We have a few minutes and we can just see whether there's any questions or comments. Anyone?
Yeah, just a quick question. So I'm quite impressed by the sort of activities going on, but I sort of feel that we need something that's more national. It seems very regional, with people sort of doing things off their own bat. So have we looked into kind of some of these like big charitable foundations, like sort of like the Bill Gates Foundation and so on, and some of these other sort of corporate ones where we can maybe get some funding, we can do something nationally?
So Sandeep, thank you for your question. I think that is the kinds of question that many people have been asking, and what we are showing you today is to highlight the fact that, number one, there are many initiatives, but they may not hit the mark because they are not quite strategic or quite holistic, right? And part of how we are solving this problem is by joining the dots, for example, with the Digital Poverty Alliance, right? Because they are now providing that structure, that framework. They are the ones that can bring political parties, government departments, corporates, and others together. So they have a role there to play to make that happen, right? All of us as either individuals or organizations that we work for or work with, right? We have a role to help to socialize this issue and then figure out how would people and how would organizations like to contribute, right? So it's not I do not have a simple answer for you, but in a simplistic way, yes, that is the intent. That's what we're trying to do. And the National Delivery Plan that the Digital Poverty Alliance is launching later this year, I think end of May this year, is a step towards making sure that some of these initiatives out there are truly impactful, strategic, national, and not only national, but also international.
Okay. Thank you. No, I appreciate it's not a simple answer. It's just a thought.
Yes, thank you. Anyone else? Mark, you got your hand raised?
Yeah, sorry. Sandeep, yeah, obviously we go back and forth in the comments. Yeah, just to kind of add on to what Freddie's mentioned there, one of the kind of enduring things that threads that we found as well is that actually the majority of the work that we've seen is happening locally. The good work. I mean, there's something to be said absolutely for strategic direction, which is what we're looking for. But actually, the local areas and the kind of member-led activities is where we're seeing the most immediate benefit at the lower level. It's trying to coordinate all of this activity at a high level is like Freddie said, it's quite a hard thing. The lower level stuff is very much it's going to have an immediate effect on people. So in answer to your particular thing with regards to the East Midlands, there are things that are happening there. Okay. My advice to you would be to have a look at some of the resources on the website. If you want, absolutely come and ask us, and I can help you and we can guide you. We're not going to turn everything around immediately. That's not going to happen. But all of us working together, you know, the BCS is a big beast. There's a lot of people in the BCS, and if we just mobilise a third or an eighth of the BCS, you know, we can do stuff.
Yep.
And training people to deliver more training is where we want to be.
Yeah.
So thank you, Sandeep. I suggest let's connect after this, because I'm sure we have a few examples that we can share with you, to join a few more dots up. Okay. So thank you, everybody.